Hello my friends. I'm not doing a lot of video, but I think this one needs to be on YouTube. It's about Leica M. Why Leica M? All you need to know about Leica M, but most the true, not the false information, not the mythification, not the fetishism, just the true. First, it will be a quick video, I hope. First, of course, all you know is that camera doesn't matter. What does that mean? That means that if you are a very good photographer, whatever camera you have, you will do good photography. It could be an iPhone. I remember a story with a very famous photographer, Henri Cartier-Bresson. He had to photograph some things and his camera was broken. And so it just took the first tourism around him and he negotiated to use his camera, and he used the camera of the tourism and he shoot and it was done. So camera doesn't matter. Okay, Leica. Wow, what a myth. Here you have two Leicas, one Fuji. I had 20 Leicas. I had nearly all of them, so I can talk about it. They are very, very good camera, and I will explain why. First, the name Leica. Leica, it's on this one, on this M4, you see it's written Lights. Lights, that's the name of the company, Lights. It's a company who was doing some cameras since years. And they move on to Leica because Leica means Leights camera. But that means something else. That means that Leights was doing the lens. And what a camera? A camera is just a hole. Look at that one. This is an M4. This is an M4. I open it and now I take a picture. I take a picture. Here is the camera is a hole. It's a hole for the light to go through the lens directly to the film. So basically, what does that mean? That means that Leica was making lens, one of the best lens in the 1950, 1940. One of the best lens in Earth. And so they need a camera to put this lens. And here it's come the Leica. First, a very small one, because Leica was the first one to introduce the 35mm, as we know. But I don't go into that path. But they built the Leica 1, Leica 2, and then the, what we call in France the telemeters, the rangefinder. They put in a Leica 2 rangefinder to measure the distance, and then they couple it. And when they couple it, they start with a new camera, which was the Leica M. The M mount, what we call the M mount, and a couple rangefinder. That's what is a Leica M. It's just a hole, and with this small wheel, it gave the distance you set on the lens. It's put a visualization at the center of the frame, and so moving the lens, you see what is your subject. Is that clear? I hope. So this is the Leica M. And then they come with the first one, the M3. And then they move on. They sold millions of M3. It was the camera of everybody who had some money in the 1950s. Millions. And then they move on to a simpler one, which was the M2, which was the original design. In fact, if you look to the M2, it looked like the M4 or the M7 or the M10. But at this time, in the 1950s, some guys in the office, they feel that, oh no, it doesn't look good. So they add some square lines around the frame, but doesn't matter. So they went to M2, and each time it was better and better. So from M2, which had the 35 millimeters lines inside the glass, they moved to the M4, which was the ancestor of this one. M4, very simple to load, very simple to rewind, very quick advanced film lever, you know, articulated. And then they moved to the M5, which was the first one who measured the light automatically. And when the M5 came, a Japanese camera came also into the market. They were so cheap if you compare it to the cost of a camera built in Germany, like a tank. And so Leica had some troubles. And they solved the troubles because some guys, they really loved the M4, and they decided in Canada to restart the line with the M4P, which is this one, which saved the Leica M. And after the M4P, they went to the M6, which has also, the M4P has no light meter inside. It's a very basic camera. It's just like an M4. It's a very strong one. That's the first fake information. Everybody told you, oh, the M4II is not strong, or the M4P, which is a different one with 28 millimeters lines, are not strong. That's not true. They are the strongest M, to be honest. Why? Because they have a very difficult engines, electrical engines, and so they had to change the wheels, the brass wheels inside, and they changed the brass wheels for steel wheels. So in fact, this is a very strong camera. The only stuff which was very light was the counter, because on the M42, the counter and all of the other M are plastic. Doesn't look like, but they are plastic. And that's the same for the M6, that's the same for the M7, and the counter, the first ones, maybe the first 100 ones, they had some trouble, so they had to change a wheel on inside, but that's solved. So the M4II is very, very strong. But let's go on. So they moved to the M6, and then they moved to the M7, which was the aperture priority. And that was the end of the line. You can find today MA, which is exactly the same as this one. It's rebuilt with old parts. They don't build with new parts. They found in the factory old parts, and they build the MA and the MP. That's the reality, and the MP is just an M6, nothing more. So what I want to go here is that each time you move on the M, it's better. I know that on the internet you will find some information that it's not better, but the reality that each time it's better. Each time they improve the M. And the best film M today is the M7. There is no questions. This is the clearest rangefinder. This is the most accurate speed, because it's automatic speed, and this one is just gear. That means that after 2 years you need to go to a factory, not to the factory, to a guys who just set the speed, because it starts to be wrong, and also to set the rangefinder. And in this one you don't have to set it, because it's far more stronger and it doesn't move. So each time they improve the M, that's the first information. So if you want an M2 or if you want an M3, that's very good. You can use it. But you have to know that it's more complex cameras to load. The viewfinder is not as clear as the new ones. And some parts you can't find them. Like, for example, of the M3, if you can't repair easily the rangefinder. So you have to know that There are cameras who are 50 years old. They are very, very nice. They work nice, but they are difficult to load, difficult to rewind, and they could have some troubles. This one is 1979, you know, and it was already repaired 5 times. I don't say repair, but you know what they say, CLA, clean, lubricate, and adjust. So you have to take that into account. The second one is what is a Leica M. And this is, I'm not going into the fetishism of the camera. They are very nice camera, but people love them not because they are very nice or very strong, or they just love them because they have one of the best telemeters in the market. One of the best rangefinders, sorry, I'm using the French name. One of the best rangefinder on the market. What does that mean? Why a rangefinder is the path you have to go to do good photography? Oh, that's very, very simple. Because the rangefinder helps you to decompose the way you take a picture. The first way, you look into the frame. And there is an outside of the frame and there is the inside of the frame. So you move your frame and you say, oh, there is here a good shoot. The second stuff you do is that you put the center of your frame where you want to put the distance. And you move this scale and you set manually in a fraction of a second where you want the point to be the most clear point of your picture. That's done. And the third point is that you set your speed according to your aperture. And that's on the old one, it's experience. You can use experience, or you can use one of these measure of light like that ones. And you can measure it on the morning. You don't have to measure it on each picture you do. If you are in the street, you know, the light is the same. If you photograph a black guy or white guys, the light is the same. You don't have to adjust, you know. So you set that and the aperture, the speed and the aperture, and then third, you recompose your picture. And that's a rangefinder. If I resume the rangefinder is you recompose the picture. You set the point and you recompose the picture. And that's why with a rangefinder, you will take pictures which are 100 times better than with any other camera. It's not the camera, it's you. You recompose the picture. That's it. Of course, you can do it with that. You know, it's automatic. You half press the Fuji, it measures the distance, and then you can recompose the picture. But the problem is that you use the same fingers. You half press, and I can tell you, your brain will press. Your brain will have very, very, very hard times to recompose and then to press. With a Leica, one finger is here to shoot, one finger is here to set the distance. So that's not the same. You set the distance and you can remove. You wait, you recompose. There is no rush. That's the huge difference. You can laugh, but I can tell you, just try M and you will understand that. Manual distance, recomposing the picture, that's the key. I want to talk about what all these cameras in common. All the M, you can put the same lens. Here, I've got the 7 artisan lens. It's a very cheap lens. It's like a copy of the Summicron, but the old one. And it costs something like 200 or 300 bucks. Here, I got a very funny lens. This is a lens made by Lomo. In fact, you know the LCA, the plastic Russian cameras, who save basically the film because Lomography saved the film with Putin. And Lomo, they did that. They used the lens, they couple it on the Leica, and it's named Lomo LCA Minita. Of course, it's not a Leica lens, but it's very fun to use. And you see, the Japanese also are doing some lens like that. So that's it. What is a Leica M is also the M mount. That's what they have all in common. And you can use a very, very, very old M mount and put it on a new digital camera, because here you have film camera, but the digital camera have the same principle. They are exactly like the M7. It's an aperture priority mode. It's the same telemeter. The only difference you have is that you've got the digital sensor here, so you don't have to develop. And the second difference, of course, is that you can change your ASA on a switch here, which is quite good. But they are basically the same camera. Then I want to talk about also in the mythification, the weight. The weight is because these cameras are made by brass. They are made by brass, they are made by heavy metals, and they are quite heavy. Basically, it's double the weight of the Fuji. Double the weight. And not only they are very strong, of course, but this add a lot of stability. A lot of stability. And why it's important? It's very important because you don't have image to blur. On this manual camera, you can go up to 1 of 15, 1 of 8, 1 of 4. You see that? And I can tell you, some guy, they can go 1 of 15s without moving, straight, taking a picture. That means that you can use this camera during very low lights and have your picture not too much blur. And this aperture priority is exactly the same. What you want as a photographer is not to set your speed, except if you take pictures of Formula One. You don't really care about the speed on most subject, but you really care about the aperture. And it's why on that camera, you put it on auto and you set the aperture. And in the visor, you get the result of the speed corresponding to this aperture. So that means that that's the master. That's what you master. And the speed is your slave. And because it's very heavy camera, you know that you can go down. So that means that if you are night, or if you want some things very, very, a lot of net distance, very clear distance, you close it to f16s, but then you know that because it's a heavy camera, you could be at 115 and you will get the picture. That's why it's a heavy camera, and that's why it's very, very important. On that one, you have automatic ISO, you don't care about that. But on the film cameras, it's so much important. And on the digital M8 and M9, which go to 800 ASA, that's very important that they are so much heavy. So they are not heavy because they should be. They are heavy because it's very important for a camera to be stable, and for a small camera like that. Another myth that people say, they are cameras for dentists. They are not cameras for pro. That's absolutely not true. The reality is that pro guys were using these cameras up to the 1980s. they are all using that for reportage because it's a reportage camera. It's a camera for street photography. It's not a camera with a zoom. It's not a camera for sport. It's a camera for following people, taking picture of people and a crowd, and also taking picture in street. That's it. But professional were using it. The problem today is that professional doesn't get any more money. That's the reality. The reality that professional can't afford Leica anymore, can't afford Leica lens anymore, can't afford Leica camera anymore, or at least can't afford them new. But it's not because they are not good or they are not professional camera, because they are very good, and I know a lot of professionals who have this camera because they make a lot of money and they can afford it. That's a reality. I am very, very sorry. That's not a dentist's camera. That's a professional camera, but that's a very expensive camera. And, you know, Leica is absolutely conservative. You have to understand that this M7, which is a film camera, was on the market in 2000. In 2000, it's Nikon or Canon, I don't remember which one, bring the first SLR digital camera. And at this time, wow, Leica came with the aperture priority. That means that they are very, very conservative. Why does that mean? That means that the camera is moving very slowly. The design of the camera is moving very slowly, because it costs, like a Porsche or like a Rolex. So it's a good point because they save some things, you know. It's a bad point because they don't follow the river, and it's expensive. But that's the reality. The Leica camera is very conservative. The good point is that you can buy old cameras. You can buy on the market old cameras because they are quite strong. That means that you can buy cameras from 1979, this one, or this one, which is from 2002 or 2004. And they still work. They are half price of new, and they still work. And if you don't want it, you can sell them after 1 or 2 years, and the value will be, they will a bit keep their value. About value, I want to talk about that. Value, they say, oh, they will keep their value. Don't buy M7 because it's electronics inside. Buy M6 or buy M4. I'm not agree with that. They are very strong camera first. I don't know anything bad for M7 except two things. This disc, but you just have to clean it with a paper and it's solved. And inside there is DX coder. And these DX coders, sometimes they are with grease and they don't work very well with all the cartouche. So you don't put it on DX, you put it on manual, and that's it. So they have absolutely no problem. Of course, in 10, 15 years, 20 years, maybe nobody will repair it. But let's say, do we have film in 10, 15 years? Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. All the guys who are repairing my M4, they are around 65. I'm not sure they will survive long. I'm not sure there is new guys who will be able to repair this camera. I'm not sure there will be enough parts. So today they keep their value because the Japanese market is pushing a lot of, you know, the Japanese, they had a lot of these cameras, they love them, and they put them on eBay. And so the market is going like a bubble, but for me it's a bubble. That's nothing. I mean, for me, these cameras, they are very good ones. But they don't value. This camera doesn't value 1,500 euros. That's not true. That's not true. The normal value was like 4 years ago. It was 400 euros, and it was very good for 400 or 500 euros. And then you need to put 200 euros to clean to do the CLA, and that's it. This camera today is 3,500 euros. That's not correct. This camera should be 1,000, 1,500 euros maximum. So that's my point. I know that the market is not like that, but be careful, because the bubble already stopped in some country, because people can't afford about that. And when you see Japanese bringing on the market some Mamiya 6 or some contacts, you know, or all these cameras, you can't repair them, you know. If a part of the electronics is broken, that's the end of the camera. You know, even if they are from the 1980s, which are the worst one, 1970s, 1980s, they are the worst one in terms of electronics, you know. So all these cameras will stop, and so don't pay more than 200-300 euros for this camera. For an M7, it's far more stronger, and there is still guys who are able to repair them, and so you can add a bit, but not too much. That's my point. Last point, future of Leica M. This is an optical viewfinder, and it's also an electronic viewfinder. I don't think that, I think that Leica has to look on that ones to improve their rangefinder. On that one, you have a lot of information. Even if you are on the optical viewfinder, you can put more information than just the speed. I hope that Leica will do that. Leica can look on that one also to build a cheaper Leica M. That will be the future, because maybe a Leica N, November, you know, but with a M mount and a bit cheaper than this one. And I think that will be very, very interesting. That will be very interesting to have still the quality of Leica, still able to put the Leica M mount on the camera, but something's more simple. That's it, guys. I believe that Leica M are the best camera in the world, but I believe that you don't have to be fetishism on that. Personally, I don't keep my Leica M camera. I just keep one, so I will keep this one. I will sell this one because I don't need two. So I will sell this one, and I will don't sell it too much for too much money, because I hate that. And I will keep my M7, which is for me the best ones. And after, maybe I will replace this one by digital M10, because I'm missing the Leica digital. I had all of them, and I'm missing it a bit. That's it.